Dear listeners, a new day and a new story to discuss. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that interests me. Listen and write down what you think about this situation. I'm interested in your opinions. Hey, it's me, Alex. You're probably wondering why I'm here, spilling my guts to you. It's simple. I've got this story, and it's eating me up inside. It starts with Jamie, my other half, or so I thought. This tale? It's about betrayal, the kind that sneaks up on you, then hits you hard, right in the chest. We had our ups and downs, Jamie and me. But nothing prepared me for what was coming. It was a Thursday evening when Jamie said they were going out for a drink with a friend they met online, Chris. My gut twisted, but I played it cool. Have fun, I said, but my mind was racing. Who was this Chris? Days passed, and the air between us grew thick with unspoken words. Jamie was distant, distracted. I could feel the space between us widening, an invisible chasm filled with secrets and lies. Then, Jamie confessed. Alex, there's something I need to tell you. Their voice was shaky, filled with regret. I met up with Chris. It was just a drink, I swear. But I know I messed up. I stared, disbelief and anger swirling in a toxic mix inside me. A drink? With some stranger? I wanted to rage, to scream. Instead, I asked, why Jamie? Why him? Their answer was a shrug, a mumbled excuse about feeling lonely and misunderstood. That cut deep. Wasn't I enough? The next part? That's where it gets twisted. Jamie promised to cut ties with Chris. It's you I want, they said, eyes pleading. But the seed of doubt? It had already been planted. Trust, once broken, is like a mirror shattered. You can try to piece it back together, but the cracks? They always show. I devised a plan. If Jamie thought they could play me for a fool, they were in for a surprise. I'd watch, wait, and gather evidence. If Jamie was going to betray me, I'd make sure I had the upper hand. Revenge was a dish best served cold, and I was chilling it to perfection. Our conversations turned into a chess game. Each word, each move, was calculated. I kept my enemies close, and Jamie? They had no idea they had just become one. Are we okay? Jamie would ask, voice laced with faux concern. Perfect, I'd reply, with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Inside, though, I was plotting, planning my next move. The tension was palpable, a ticking time bomb of secrets and lies. And me? I was the one holding the detonator, waiting for the perfect moment to blow everything wide open. So, there you have it. The beginning of the end. Stick around. This story? It's just getting started. And trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. You know, I always thought I knew Jamie. But that week, that damn trip to Vegas, it changed everything. It was supposed to be a routine business venture, a few days away from home. Little did I know, I was walking straight into a storm, brewing silently back at home. The first few nights, our calls were like a lifeline, 3 hours of talking, laughing, a semblance of normalcy. But it was the calm before the storm. The last night, everything changed. Jamie's call came late, their voice trembling through the phone. Alex, we need to talk. My heart sank. What's wrong, Jamie? The words came out in choked sobs. I messed up again. The silence that followed was deafening. My mind raced, piecing together the betrayal before the confession even came. Chris? I asked, already knowing the answer. Yes, Jamie whispered, a confession wrapped in fear. Rage boiled inside me, a fierce, consuming fire. But I kept my voice steady. Tell me everything. And Jamie did. They met with Chris again, right under our roof, steps away from where our life together was built. Drinks, laughter, a stolen kiss. A betrayal, plain and simple. I didn't mean for it to happen, Jamie pleaded. I thought we were just friends. Friends. The word echoed in my head, mocking me. Friends don't kiss, Jamie, I spat out, the venom in my voice barely contained. I know. I'm sorry, Jamie's voice broke, desperation seeping through. Sorry. The word was empty, meaningless. Jamie's apologies felt like band-aids trying to cover a gaping wound. I hung up, the finality of the call hanging heavy in the air. My mind raced, plans forming, a cold, calculating anger taking hold. This wasn't just about betrayal, it was about respect, about what I deserved. And I was going to make sure Jamie understood the gravity of their mistake. The flight home was a blur, each mile bringing me closer to confrontation, to a reckoning. I had all the evidence I needed, every lie, every deceit laid bare. Jamie's fate was in my hands. The door to our home creaked open, a symbolic threshold between the past and the inevitable future. Jamie's eyes met mine, a mix of fear, guilt, and regret staring back at me. We sat, the air thick with tension, the silence a heavy blanket smothering us. "I heard you, Jamie," I began, my voice calm but laced with an icy resolve. "Now, you're going to hear me." This was it, the moment of truth. No more lies, no more secrets. Just two people, stripped of pretenses, facing the raw, ugly reality of betrayal. And so, I laid it out, every thought, every emotion, every calculated move I was prepared to make. Jamie's tears fell, a silent admission of guilt, but my heart was stone. Forgiveness was a currency I wasn't willing to trade anymore. The chapter closed on us that night, the final words of a story that had taken an irrevocable turn. What came next was anyone's guess. But one thing was clear, the path forward was going to be walked alone. In the quiet aftermath of confrontation, the world seemed to stand still. It was just me, alone with my thoughts, wrestling with the echoes of Jamie's betrayal. The silence of our home was a stark contrast to the storm raging within me. You see, in moments like these, you start to question everything. The foundation you built, the love you thought was unbreakable, all of it starts to crumble under the weight of deceit. I never thought Jamie could do this to me. I found myself whispering into the emptiness. It was a confession to no one, a reflection of the vulnerability I kept hidden beneath layers of anger and resolve. As I sat there, the memories flooded in, unbidden. Jamie's smile, the warmth of their touch, the future we had planned together. All tainted now, stained by the reality of their actions. Was it all a lie? I pondered, the question hanging heavy in the air. The sharp twist in this tale wasn't just the betrayal itself, but the realization that came with it. I understood then that revenge, as sweet as it might seem, was a poison. A poison I was willingly drinking, thinking it would only harm Jamie. But in truth, it was corroding me from the inside out. I could make Jamie pay, I mused, the thought a constant temptation. It would be easy, a few calculated moves to expose the affair, to see Jamie lose everything. But at what cost? Would my vengeance bring back the trust we lost? Would it heal the scars left by their betrayal? No. The answer came to me, clear and unwavering. Revenge might offer a momentary satisfaction, but it wouldn't change the past. It wouldn't erase the pain or fill the void that Jamie's actions had created. "I'm better than this," I declared to the shadows. It was a moment of clarity, a realization that I needed to rise above the desire for retribution. To seek revenge would be to let Jamie's betrayal define me, to let it dictate the course of my life. And I refused to give them that power. The path forward was uncertain, fraught with pain, and the daunting task of rebuilding myself from the ground up. But in that uncertainty, there was a flicker of hope. A chance to redefine who I was, independent of Jamie, independent of the hurt that had threatened to consume me. As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, I made a silent vow. I would not let this betrayal be the end of my story. I would find strength in my pain, wisdom in my suffering. And someday, I would look back on this moment, not with bitterness, but with the understanding that it was the catalyst for a new beginning. So there I was, standing at the crossroads of my life, the future an unwritten chapter. And I was ready to pick up the pen and start anew on my own terms. There's this saying, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Funny, isn't it? How life throws you these curveballs, wrapped in lessons you thought you already learned. My reflection on Jamie's betrayal led me down a rabbit hole, to a time not so different from my current predicament. It's like staring into a mirror, only to see a past version of yourself looking back, equally lost, equally wounded. This story isn't just mine, it's Taylor's too. Taylor, who found themselves shackled to the weight of their spouse Jordan's infidelity. A betrayal that spanned years, hidden beneath layers of lies and false promises. Sound familiar? I remember when Taylor first confided in me, their voice a mixture of disbelief and sorrow. I trusted them, Taylor said, the words heavy with grief. How could they do this to me? It was a question that echoed in my own heart, a shared melody of betrayal. Taylor's discovery of Jordan's affair was accidental, a happenstance that shattered their world. And there I was, facing a similar revelation, a similar heartbreak. It's a cruel twist of fate, how the universe decides to remind us of our vulnerabilities, of our capacity to be hurt by those we love most. I should have seen the signs, Taylor lamented, a sentiment I knew all too well. We both fell into the trap of complacency, believing in a facade that crumbled under the weight of truth. But where Taylor sought forgiveness, I found myself veering towards vengeance. The conversations Taylor and I had were mirrors of each other, reflections of pain and the struggle to find meaning in the chaos. What do you plan to do? Taylor asked, their situation mirroring my own dilemma. I contemplated lying, crafting a tale of forgiveness and reconciliation. But the truth? The truth was darker, filled with plans of retribution that danced on the edge of my thoughts. I'm not sure, I replied, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. As Taylor shared their journey of seeking redemption, of trying to rebuild what was broken, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy. They spoke of forgiveness as a path to healing, a concept I struggled to grasp. Isn't revenge sweeter? I found myself asking a rhetorical question that revealed the depth of my bitterness. No, Taylor said, their answer simple yet profound. It's a hollow victory, one that leaves you more broken than before. Their words struck a chord, a dissonant note in the symphony of my vengeful plans. I began to question the path I was on, the vindictive and calculating narrative I had embraced. Was my desire for revenge truly about justice, or was it a mask for my own pain and insecurities? As our conversation drew to a close, I was left with more questions than answers. Taylor's story, a mirror to my own, offered a glimpse of a different ending, one not dictated by revenge but by the possibility of forgiveness and growth. So there I was, caught between the past and the present, between vengeance and redemption. The reflection in the mirror was changing, shifting into something new, something uncertain. And for the first time, I began to wonder if there was another way, a path less traveled but potentially more rewarding. The chapter ends here, but the story? The story goes on, a tale of two souls navigating the treacherous waters of betrayal and forgiveness. And as for me, well, I'm still figuring out which reflection I'll choose to follow. It's funny, isn't it? How life seems to script moments you thought only belonged in the movies. There I was, sitting across from Jamie, the table between us laden with more than just the remnants of our dinner. It bore the weight of our past, our secrets, and the imminent explosion of truths long buried. Jamie, I started, my voice steady, betraying none of the turmoil churning inside. We need to talk. They looked up, eyes wide, a flicker of fear passing through. I know, Jamie whispered, the simplicity of their admission slicing through the air like a knife. This was it, the moment of truth. My heart hammered against my ribs, a relentless drumbeat heralding the collapse of the world as we knew it. I found out, I said, each word measured, heavy with implication. The silence that followed was oppressive, pregnant with anticipation and dread. Found out what? Jamie's voice was barely audible, a testament to the gravity of our situation. About Chris. About everything. I let the words hang between us, a guillotine poised to fall. Jamie's face paled, the blood draining as if my words were physical blows. Alex, they began, but I held up a hand to stop them. No, Jamie. It's my turn to talk. I leaned in, my gaze locking onto theirs. I gave you every chance, every benefit of the doubt. And yet, you chose to betray me, to lie to my face. The confession that followed was a deluge, a torrent of words and tears that spilled over the dam of Jamie's composure. They spoke of loneliness, of confusion, of seeking something they couldn't even name. Chris was a mistake, a misstep in a dance Jamie didn't realize they were performing. I'm sorry, Alex. I'm so sorry, Jamie sobbed, their voice breaking under the weight of their guilt. I never meant to hurt you. I got lost. The simplicity of their confession was a sharp contrast to the complexity of my emotions. Anger, betrayal, sorrow, they swirled within me, a tempest threatening to tear me apart from the inside out. But in that moment, a strange calm settled over me. The vindictiveness that had fueled my fantasies of revenge seemed hollow, a bitter poison that would only corrupt my soul. Jamie, I said, my voice softer now, I don't know if I can ever forgive you. The trust is broken, shattered into pieces I don't think we can ever put back together. The air between us was thick with unspoken words, with the realization that this might be the end of our journey together. I need time, I continued, standing up from the table. Time to think, to figure out if there's a way forward from here. Jamie nodded, tears streaming down their face, a silent acknowledgement of the chasm that had opened up between us. As I walked away, I felt the finality of the moment, the closing of a chapter in our lives. But I also felt a sliver of hope, a faint glimmer in the darkness. Maybe, just maybe, this confrontation was the first step toward healing, toward finding myself again in the aftermath of betrayal. And so, I stepped into the night, the future uncertain, but the burden of unspoken truths finally lifted from my shoulders. The night air was crisp, a biting reminder of the shift not just in the season, but in my life. Walking away from that dinner, from Jamie, felt like stepping off a cliff into an unknown abyss. It was terrifying, yet strangely liberating. The confrontation had laid everything bare, And now, here I was, standing at a crossroads of my own making. You ever find yourself at such a point? Where each path laid out before you promises its own version of salvation or damnation. It's a daunting place to be. There's the road that leads back to Jamie, to what we had, or maybe to what I thought we had. Then there's the other, winding away into a future where I start anew, alone but perhaps finally at peace. I need time to think. Those were the last words I said to Jamie. And think I did, pacing the streets, letting the chill seep into my bones, a physical counterpoint to the tumult in my heart. Can I really just walk away? I mused aloud to the empty streets, my voice a ghost in the night. After all we've been through? But then, the memories of betrayal, of lies whispered in the dark, they'd come rushing back, a flood of pain and anger. And with them, a voice, my own, whispering, "Can you ever trust again?" Trust. Such a small word, yet it's the bedrock of everything, isn't it? Without it, what do you have? A house of cards, ready to tumble down at the slightest breeze of doubt. Jamie had taken that from us, had lit a match to the foundation of our relationship. Should I, try to rebuild from the ashes? I stopped, my breath misting in the air, a visible marker of my internal struggle. And in that moment, the world seemed to hold its breath with me. What do I want? The question echoed in the silence, bouncing off the closed doors and shuttered windows of the sleeping houses around me. It was a question only I could answer, a choice only I could make. The thought of starting over was daunting. There's a comfort in the familiar, even when it's broken, even when it hurts. But there was also a spark of excitement at the thought of reinventing myself, of discovering who I could be without Jamie, without the shadow of their betrayal darkening my every step. And what about revenge? That dark, seductive whisper that promised satisfaction but offered only a path to my own ruin. I realized then, standing alone in the cold night, that revenge was a chain, not a weapon. It bound me to Jamie, to the pain, in a way that forgiveness, whether for them or for myself, never would. So there it was, my crossroads. One path led back to the past, to a love tainted by betrayal. The other led forward, to uncertainty, to the possibility of healing and new beginnings. The decision wouldn't be easy. I knew that. But as I turned my steps towards home, towards the dawn of a new day, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Whatever choice I made, it would be mine and mine alone. And in that autonomy, there was a flicker of hope, a beacon guiding me through the darkness. I wasn't at the end of my journey, not by a long shot. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally on my own path, one where the echoes of the past wouldn't drown out the promise of tomorrow.